Hey, welcome back to Hotspot TV. At Hotspot, we believe that behind every remarkable event are equally remarkable people. To see the best of what's going on around you, visit us at hotspot.co. I'm Vidal Kachuku, and we're about to get started. So guys, welcome back to Hotspot TV. As I said, I'm Vidal Kachuku here with Sarah Rosenkrantz and Sam Greenberg of the Youth Housing Initiative here in Harvard Square. We're partnering with these phenomenal people to put together a holiday happy hour of sorts in the middle of December. So stay tuned for more information about that, and you can find more information in the link below. But we're here to talk to you about these two recent Harvard graduates, that's correct. Mm-hmm. Class of 2013, represent?
2014.
2014, that's right.
Represent.
Dang, I'm getting old. Losing track of the year. But let's talk about you guys. Talk about the Youth Housing Initiative, what you're all about and what you're trying to do so that people can understand.
Yeah, sure. So in college, Sam and I were both directors of the Harvard Square Homeless Shelter,
Okay.
Which is a student-run shelter in Harvard Square and serves adults. And has been around for like 30 years now.
Okay.
So we started thinking about ways to expand a couple years ago and honed in on the issue of young adult homelessness. So
Okay.
18 to 24-year-olds, people our own age who are experiencing homelessness, and decided that as young people, we make a really good group of individuals to address this issue.
Yeah.
And I think really what we're looking to do, what the Youth Housing Initiative is really a group of students who aren't content to wait for things to get better. Really, there are only 12 shelter beds for young adults ages 18 to 24 in the entire Greater Boston area.
12, you said?
Just 12, and
Wow.
that's in one shelter. And that's just not enough. I mean, we know that the most conservative possible estimate is 600 young adults are homeless, in sort of throughout the year in the Greater Boston area, and it's more than that. It's been tough to get a count, but that there aren't enough resources. So what we're hoping to do is open a student-run shelter here on Harvard Square for 18 to 24-year-olds that will provide them with a safe kind of place to recover, rest, and stabilize, and also the resources and the pathways out of homelessness to find stability over the long term.
Okay, so a couple questions. Why are there so few beds for young homeless people? Is it a legal issue, or is it just there's not the infrastructure, or that tends to not be the case?
Yeah, so I think kind of the biggest challenge in the past couple of years has been that this issue, the particular age group of 18 to 24, hasn't been one that's gotten a lot of attention until now.
Okay.
So, for a while, young adults were just lumped into the general adult category. So like the Harvard Square Homeless Shelter, for example, is an 18-plus shelter. So we serve 60-year-olds, we also serve 19-year-olds. And it's only been in the past couple of years that youth homelessness, so 24 and under, has been identified as a national priority.
Okay.
And a lot more research has gone to it. And the research shows that it's really important to have separate spaces for young people.
Okay. Wait, before you talk a little bit more, why specifically is it important to have separate space for younger people?
Yeah, so again, research shows, and kind of anecdotally, we know that 18 to 24-year-olds often don't feel safe staying in a mixed environment with adults. And I mean, I can just speak from like my experience. Like, I definitely wouldn't want to share a living environment with a 60-year-old.
So much more hair. Just shed it all over the place. Yeah.
And the same applies for young adults who are experiencing homelessness.
Yeah.
People our age have really different needs, and really need a space that caters specifically to those needs.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No worries. I mean, I was just going to chime in. I think that's spot on, and I'm glad you asked that. One thing that Sarah was speaking about was the unique needs that young adults have that aren't faced as significantly in the adult population. So young adults disproportionately identify as LGBTQ. And here in Harvard Square, it's about 35% of young adults who are homeless identify as LGBTQ, which is vastly, way, way higher than the general population. Here in Massachusetts, about 25% of young adults who are homeless have come out of the foster care system. So there's some real structural issues, and that means that in our shelter, we have to build in the services that are really, really good at addressing young adults coming out of the foster care system, young adults who identify as LGBTQ, among other specific needs.
So I was actually going to ask you, what are some of the primary reasons that someone could find themselves homeless at 18 to 24? Because we imagine we all come from relatively privileged backgrounds, and just the notion of that is so foreign. And you said it sounds like a very big chunk of it is LGBTQ. And is this, so I imagine it's the parents forcing them out of the house once they come out, or what's kind of the progression that you see?
I mean, so one of our mentors says it in a really wonderful way. She says that homeless young adults are homeless for 3 reasons. Home isn't safe, home isn't supportive, or home doesn't exist.
Wow.
So home doesn't exist, the foster care system. A lot of times when you turn 18 in the foster care system, you're aged out, and you don't have those services available to you anymore. And I know, when I turned 18, I certainly wasn't kicked out on my own. I had, a family to kind of help me through that transition. But the same isn't true for everyone. And young people who maybe are living in unsafe family circumstances and choose to, or feel safer leaving. Young people get kicked out because they come out to their parents, or because there's family discord. A lot of different reasons, but at the root of it is that they often don't have a safe place to go.
Yeah, I mean, we met with somebody literally last night who was saying that when he was in college, he was kicked out of his home for coming out to his parents, and so was living out of a car when he couldn't, find a dorm, when he wasn't able to be in his dorm.
Wow.
And so, I mean, I think that it's really, really striking how unsafe homes can be at times.
Yeah. So one question I have is, I think it sounds like your first priority is to get a roof over these young individuals' head. But can you talk a little bit about the steps after that? What kind of programming do you put in place programming to either help as a therapy alternative, or to maybe help them reconcile with their families, or help their families? I guess this is more particular for people who the LGBTQ was the reason for them being pushed out. But what kind of programming do you guys provide once they're in the shelter?
Yeah, so we're going to be thinking about this in a few different ways. I think primarily it's what can we as students do and do really, really well? And I think there are definitely some great things there. So we as students can provide resume building workshops, financial planning workshops, legal aid. We can do public speaking skills, interview skills, and really work with them on the stuff that we know how to do. Just because, for me, I was, taught how to do college interviews by some of my high school guidance counselor and stuff like that. So there is some stuff that we're able to do really, really well. And then for the stuff that we can't do, we're gonna make sure that we have professional resources available. So we're gonna be partnering, co-locating, so being in the same space as a daytime program that doesn't offer shelter beds. It's called Youth on Fire here in Harvard Square, and they are amazing. I mean, they have professional case managers who do the housing searches, the job searches, the substance abuse referral, some of the a lot of really in-depth work that we as students who aren't licensed to practice this can't do. And so we're really thrilled about working with them. Additionally, we're going to be building in a medical room, a fully equipped outpatient medical clinic in our space. And we're partnering with a group called the Sidney Borum Junior Health Center, which is part of Fenway Community Health, which is a Boston area health clinic targeted at the LGBTQ population.
Got it.
And they're going to be offering services from our shelter, again, a full outpatient clinic. So really, we'll be able to provide medical resources right in-house. And the reason we really are excited about those two resources being in-house in our shelter is that what we hear a lot is that even the physical obstacle, having to take the subway, having to even just walk into a new place and interact with new people who, you might not know or might not trust, all of those things can be deterrents to accessing services.
Got it.
And then the final piece of what we're doing is referring out. So we've developed partnerships with at this point, well over 10, I think probably over 20 community organizations in the greater Boston area. And they, mental health, physical health, just case management and programming, among other things. And so what we're doing is we're going to have our students, and Sarah has a lot of experience from doing this at the Harvard Square Homeless Shelter, have our students know, okay, so you want, a really good daytime program that's targeted specifically at LGBTQ, or you want some really good mental health care. Here, I'm gonna make a phone call with you, get an appointment, give you a subway pass, and make sure that you can get there. And so that's kind of how we're thinking about it: is student in-house, some of the professional stuff in-house, and then for the stuff that those two don't hit, referring out.
Wow, that's incredible. That's very, very extensive programming, and I'm sure that that's the kind of thing that can healthily and constructively take a young homeless person through their college years, through what is supposed to be the most dynamic points of their life, and hopefully lead them to a more favorable outcome. So what I'd like you to discuss a little bit in closing are what are some of the perceptions of homeless people, young homeless people in particular, and how do you combat them? I think you often see people, the average person walking by a homeless person is like, this person is unmotivated, they don't have a job, all these kinds of things that kind of blames them, when in many cases they're the victim. So how do you guys personally what do you guys personally do when you encounter homeless people, and how do you kind of help shape and restructure those stigmas?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit on it exactly. The huge perception is that, right, these are lazy people. They left home, they made a choice, and they are living with that choice. And I think what the thing that I've learned is that everyone is so different, and the young people that I've worked with are the most hardworking people I've ever met, and the smartest, the most resilient, and just have incredible stories to tell. And I think the biggest thing that I can suggest is that just treat someone who's homeless as you would treat a friend or a brother or a sister. And I think, learning that we aren't any different, that there's so much that, people have in common and that we share. And I think that's kind of the biggest perception that I would.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think, what I would say to somebody who has any of those sentiments is, if someone is making the choice to either leave home or to be on the streets in any way, and are literally, it's probably 35 degrees out today. Are literally sleeping on the streets in freezing, dangerous conditions where they're at risk of being assaulted, where they're at risk of being robbed, mugged, or anything else. And if they're making that choice, then, it probably means that there's a really good reason for why they're there.
The alternative is a really bad one.
Yeah, that's very, very true. Well, thank you so much for giving me your time. You guys are doing very, very impressive work. And I'm very impressed at how, I don't know if this sounds condescending, but how young you guys are. And I'm only like a couple years older than you, but just
Grandpa Vidal, right?
You don't often see people as young as us who are actively trying to make these kinds of things happen. And you're very much an example of that younger generation that is, as you said at the beginning, isn't willing to just sit around and wait for these kinds of things to happen, because you see what's going on in Washington, just how long that could take. So you guys definitely come hang out with them. They're going to be one of the featured charities at this holiday party. We're going to be featuring a number of charities there, so you can come chat with them, learn more about what they do, and just see what's going on in Boston and how Boston's trying to make an impact in their environment. But thank you guys again so much. We'll see you guys next time on Hotspot TV. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Thanks for having us.
Happy Thanksgiving. Thanks for having us.